Hey, what's going on, guys? JT Dragonlord here, bringing you guys another Theros spoiler episode today. So let's just get right into it. Alright guys, we got the Archon horse. It's 4 colorless mana for a 0/4 defender. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent gains control of it. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent puts a 1/1 white soldier creature token onto the battlefield. This card is awesome. This is just the Trojan horse, but in Magic. This card's pretty cool because when it enters the battlefield, your opponent gains control of it, and then you get soldiers. So that's pretty awesome. This card is just full of flavor. I think it's hilarious that this thing even exists. In Limited, this thing could actually win you the game, because if you can hold off against their attackers, the horse will give you enough soldiers to overrun your opponent, which isn't bad. Not going to see standard play. I can see someone maybe fooling around with this thing in EDH. But this card is just hilarious, and I'm just glad it exists. Next, we got Ashen Rider. 4 colorless, 2 white, and 2 black for a 5/5 flying Archon. When he enters the battlefield or dies, exile target permanent. This card is amazing. I think this thing is going to be really good. Well, I'm talking EDH here, but I think this card is going to be amazing in EDH because we already have Angel of Despair, which is 1 less mana, and it ETBs and destroys a permanent. This card is just a straight upgrade. When it enters the battlefield, exile something. When it leaves, exile something. I think this card was more made for EDH than anything. In Standard, it's just a little too much to get there, a little bit too much mana. Limited, a little bit too much. But this is an EDH card all the way, and this thing is amazing. I can't wait to run it and just see what it can do. Next, we have Favorite Hoplite. It's 1 white mana for a 1/2. This awesome heroic ability. Whenever you cast a spell that targets him, put a +1/+1 counter on him, and prevent all damage that'll be dealt to it this turn. I think this card is really good. It's 1 white mana for a 1/2, which is awesome because it's above, normal things. Whenever you target it with the spell, it gets bigger and damage gets prevented. I think this card is actually really good. In Limited, this thing's going to be awesome, throwing auras on it and stuff. Standard, I don't know. I think this guy could go to Standard. I'm not quite sure on that. But I think this guy is just amazing. He gets bigger when you target him with auras. Gets, fogs himself. This thing is just all around good, and I'm really excited to see what it does. Up next, we got Hero's Downfall. 1 colorless and 2 black. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. Alright, I think this card is really good. Alright, so we have Murder, which is the same cost, same speed, destroy target creature. This card is a straight upgrade. It just adds or planeswalker to the card, and it makes it so much better, because now you can just say, oh, you played that planeswalker? Oh, just kill it. Oh, you have Domi Raiden play? Kill it. All this awesome stuff. It's just another Dreadbore, and I think it's awesome that it exists. People run Murder. People are gonna run this. This card is just a straight upgrade, and it's amazing. It's just a rare now. Its only difference is that it's a rare, and that's not that big of a deal. Gets rid of creatures, gets rid of planeswalkers. This card is good. I'm a little sad though because I have a planeswalker EDH deck, and this is another annoyance I now have to deal with instead of Dreadbore. But that's alright. This card is still really good, and it's obviously just going to go to Standard. Next, we got Heath, the Cruel. 4 colorless and 2 black for a 4/6 legendary creature Gorgon. It has Death Touch, and it has Monstrosity for 8 to give it 3 +1/+1 counters. And when it becomes monstrous, destroy all non-Gorgon creatures. I think this card is going to be an amazing EDH general, because you pay 6 mana for a 4/6 Death Touch, which isn't the best, but it becomes a nuke when you need it, and that's awesome. It just sits on the board, swings for 4 Death Touch, and then as soon as you need it, or as soon as you have the 8 mana, just boom. All of a sudden, it's a 7/9, and it just blew up every other creature, and then it can swing in and do all this awesome stuff. I think this card is actually really good. I'm talking EDH again. I think this card's going to be amazing in EDH. People are going to love it. Standard, I don't know. It's 6 mana for a 4/6, which isn't bad. I don't know. I could see people maybe trying to run this thing. In in limited, this thing's gonna be good. It's a 4/6 death touch. It can blow up things when you need it. It becomes bigger. Limited, it's gonna be a bomb. EDH, it's just gonna be it's gonna be awesome as a general. In constructed, I really don't think it's gonna make it there. Up next, we got Medomai the Ageless. 4 colorless, 1 white, 1 blue for a 4/4 flyer. When it deals combat damage to a player, take an extra turn after this one, and you can't attack during your extra turns. I think this card is actually really good. It's 6 mana for a 4/4 flyer, which isn't the best, but it allows you to take extra turns when it deals damage, which is awesome. It can't attack during those extra turns, but it would be pretty busted if it could. So that's a good thing that's there. But I think this card is still really good. I'm not exactly sure what it's going to do in Standard, if it does anything. EDH, again, people are going to love this. They're going to run it as their general, start taking extra turns along with their time warps and all their other stuff. It's going to be kind of crazy there. Limited, this thing's going to be awesome. It's going to allow you to take extra turns and get more advantage over your opponent. But I still think this card is awesome. I love its art, by the way. The art looks really cool on this. I just think this card is just overall good. Next, we have the Spirit of Heloid, and this card is really good. It's 1 colorless and 2 white for a legendary enchantment artifact. Creatures you control get +1/+1, and pay 1 and 2 white to tap it. Destroy target creature that dealt damage to you this turn. Now, I think this card is really good. This is a straight upgrade from Glorious Anthem. That's the same cost as 1 colorless and 2 white to give your guys +1/+1. And that's all that card does. This thing has another ability. It allows you to destroy creatures that dealt damage to you this turn. And I think this card is going to be awesome. It's going to, put this card in token decks. It's going to pump all your tokens. That's really good. And, if something hits you, you just blow it up. If you don't feel like blocking anything, like there's a creature that's kind of annoying you, if you let it hit you, then you can just blow it up with a spear. And that's awesome. You don't have to keep chump blocking it or something. You can let it hit you, and then you can just blow it up right away. You don't got to use a kill spell on it. Unless you need to, of course. But, you can let things hit you, and then you can just blow them up right off the board. I think this card is really good. I'm not sure if it's going to make it in Standard. EDH people are going to run it. Limited, it's going to be good. But I'm just excited what people do with it. Up next, we have Steam Augury. 2 colorless, 1 blue, 1 red for an instant. Reveal the top half cards of your library and separate them into 2 piles. An opponent chooses one of those piles, puts it into your hand, the other one in your graveyard. Alright, so this card is very similar to Factor Fiction, and it's a very interesting card. You reveal the top half cards of your library, and then you pick 2 piles. And this card honestly depends a lot on your opponent. If your opponent is a really good Magic player, you gotta separate your piles more strategically. If your opponent is not a very good player, you might get away with putting 2 good cards in a pile and getting it. If there's something like amazing in the other pile, you have to try to figure out the best way to make your piles, and a lot of it does depend on your opponent. Because if your opponent's really dumb, you could get the 2 cards in the pile you really want if you kind of trick your opponent a little bit, telling them that, oh, you want this card instead of these 2, and then maybe they'll fall for your trap. But this card really depends on your opponent a lot more than you, I feel. So I'm just not really a big fan of this card. I would rather use a normal draw spell, but this is my opinion, of course. This card is still pretty good. I mean, I don't know, I don't really like it that well, but if you guys want to run this card, it's pretty good, and yeah, that's all I really got on this one. Alright guys, up next we have Tormented Hero. It's 1 black mana for a 2/1. He enters the battlefield tapped, and he has a heroic ability. Whenever you cast a spell that targets him, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain life equal to the life lost this way. And this card is pretty good. It's 1 mana for a 2/1, which is not bad at all. It's a fairly aggressive card. He does enter the battlefield tap, but I don't think that's that big of a deal. And his heroic ability is very interesting. So when you target him with the spell, each opponent loses 1 life, you gain life equal to the life lost in this way. It's very interesting. It seems very slow. I don't think extort was a very good keyword because it just didn't get there fast enough. It just was a little bit of a slower mechanic. And with Standard being as fast as it is right now, you don't really need these, or I don't want to say you don't need them, but these slower mechanics just aren't as good. And I know the format is going to slow down a little bit when we lose Innistrad. But I still think this card might be a little bit too slow with its heroic ability. It's still 1 mana for a 2/1, which is good. I'm not sure how much of an impact this guy's going to have. It depends on, you know, what we can all run that can target him. Maybe we'll get a card that says target up to 3 creatures you control. They each get +1/+1. Then we'll have 3 of him out. Then, you know, we target all 3 of them. They lose 3. We gain 3. They all get +1. We swing for 9. I don't know. Maybe something like that seems good. It really depends what we can target him with. And just depends how fast the format is once Innistrad rotates. Alright guys, up next we have Whip of Erebos. It's 2 colorless and 2 black for the legendary enchantment artifact. Creatures you control have lifelink, and you can pay 2 and 2 black to tap it. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step. If it would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. Activate this ability only or anytime you can cast a sorcery. Alright, this card is really good. It's 4 mana that gives all of your dudes lifelink, and that's huge. It might not seem like it does a lot, but lifelink is a very powerful ability, and if you don't control combat, your opponent can gain a ridiculous amount of life, and you can just fall way behind very quickly. So this card is very dangerous. Be on the lookout for this. This card is very good. And then it has another ability which is amazing as well. You can pay 2 colors and 2 black to reanimate something from your graveyard. You lose it at the end of the turn, but that's still not a big deal. And you can pull back crazy things from your graveyard. You know, if you're using like self-mill effects, you know, milling your own deck, putting, you know, big guys in there, then reanimating them, then they have lifelink and haste, and you just bash your opponent in. I just think this card is going to be really good. I think this is going to make standard. I think it's going to be awesome in limited. I think it's going to be good in EDH. I think this card is going to be good everywhere it goes. I think this is also the most powerful weapon of all the gods. And I'm just really excited to see what this thing does, because it's very powerful, and don't underestimate this card. Alright guys, the last card I want to talk about today is a really cool one. It's Agent of the Fates. 1 colorless and 2 black for a 3/2 human assassin with Death Touch. That's already good enough. 3 mana for a 3/2 with Death Touch is awesome. But it's got this sick heroic. When you target him with the spell, each opponent sacrifices a creature. What? That is crazy good. I think this card is absolutely amazing. 3 mana for a 3/2 Death Touch with this awesome heroic ability is awesome. I'm not sure what kind of heroic support we're going to have for standard. I'm excited to see what else they do. We have the ordeals you can throw on these guys. All these little other enchantment things you can do. I'm excited to see what Theros brings for, you know, some heroic support. I can't wait to see what they do. And I'm just excited to see this guy blow up. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Theros Spoilers. There was a lot of cool cards I got to review today. If you guys want to tell me in the comment section what card you're most looking forward to, that'd be awesome. I am really excited for this set to drop. I can't wait for it. There's so many good cards I want. Until next time guys, I'm JT Dragonlord, and I'm out.